Before we get into the charts on the USD Mexican Peso Forex pair, let's look at a brief article from Yahoo Finance from Bloomberg. Mexico holds key interest rates at 11.25% as inflation slows. This is really, really high. So Mexico kept borrowing costs unchanged for a second straight month as the central bank vows to maintain its restrictive stance over the coming months, while inflation continues to show signs of cooling. Policymakers held their key rate at 11.25% Thursday, matching the forecast of all 25 analysts surveyed by Bloomberg. The decision was unanimous. Borrowing costs are at their highest level since the central bank started targeting inflation in '08. To achieve the orderly and sustained convergence of inflation to its 3% target, the board considers that it will be necessary to keep the interest rate at its current level for a prolonged period, the bank said in a policy statement. So Mexico has a 3% inflation target, while the U.S., for relative purposes, has a 2% inflation target. However, I'm not sure if the 2% is achievable for the longer term. We might be in a new norm of higher inflation rates. In May, Mexico, as the central bank is known, ended its record 725 basis point hiking campaign that began in June of 2021. And was around the time where all G20 central banks around the world started hiking rates to deal with inflation and the helicopter money that started after the pandemic. Now, this is from Bloomberg Economics. They say the Mexican central bank's latest rate hold confirms the tightening cycle is over. Forward guidance shows that policymakers are still cautious and will wait for more information before considering a less hawkish tone and rate cuts. We still see Mexico on hold until the fourth quarter, when tight monetary conditions, smaller price changes, low inflation expectations, and more moderate domestic demand prompted to start cutting rates. So in the U.S., the smart money out there also thinks that the Feds will start cutting rates later this year or early next year. But this is key as we look at the USD Mexico peso. But before we do that, just to give you a relative basis of Mexico's 11.25%, that's nearly double the highest G7 inflation or interest rates. You have 5.5% from New Zealand dollar, aka the Kiwi, and then the US is at 5.25. So Mexico is at 11.25%, which is high. Which is why when you look at this USD Mexican peso chart, you can just see the dive it took from September to its current level at 17.17%. This is also coinciding with the dive that we've seen in oil prices, right? Let's just go there for a moment. As Mexico relies on oil, is one of the largest oil producing countries in the world. Let's go to, so this is the monthly chart, and very similar. We had this leg down from the highs of $120 per barrel, and now we are almost half that, right? USD. All right. So, if the Central Bank of Mexico has ended its interest rate hiking cycle, that means that at some point we should see a pause in price, right? And what I think is going to happen is, because the rates are almost double the U.S., here's what I'm forecasting. Let's go to the weekly chart. Now, price did breach a couple of weeks ago this major support level at 17.5. I am anticipating price pulling back before continuing to go down, as I believe that the real liquidity where buyers are going to step in is at the weekly buyers level at $16. Why? Because because when I scroll over to the left, I don't see any. This is where price should pause, but buyers are going to step in at these levels here based on the price action patterns. You have a rally in price, a basic candle, rally out, rally in, two basic candles, and a rally out. This just shows a level where the buyers and the sellers were duking out, trying to figure out who was going to win the battle here. And back in 2015, the buyers won out, right? Similarly, this is another level. You had a rally in, basic candles, a rally out. When price pulled back in, that was where price filled any remaining unfilled buy orders, and it was off to the races. So this is the price pattern that sticks out to me, very similar to the price pattern here and here. So let's see what happens over the coming weeks and whether price is going to pull back before it continues to move down, or we're going to base here and this is the bottom. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Please like the video.